Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to another video Dvar with Rabbi Chaitovsky. This week we read a double Torah portion of Acharei-Kedoshim. We put them together. And these two portions logically go together. Acharei picks up after the death of Aaron's two children, a tragedy on its own, which we discussed previously. And the show must go on, so to speak, and the dedication of the Mishkan continues, and Aaron is instructed about the avodah, the worship and service, primarily on Yom Kippur, and all the details that make their way into our service on Yom Kippur are located and rooted in this week's Torah portion. The Torah portions also go on to describe some of the practices that we know are part and parcel of traditional Judaism, kashrut, the notion that we are distinct, and we should not follow the practices of the surrounding pagan nations. And that's where that Torah portion, Acharei ends. And immediately on the heels of that, we find two very famous verses. Vaydaber Hashem o Moshe lemor, God speaks to Moses, saying, Daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael, speak to the entire people of Israel, the entire community of Israel, and say to them, Kedoshim tihiyu, be holy. For I, the Lord, ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. And this notion of being holy is a concept that is difficult for us really to understand in this day. And if I would ask you, what does it mean to be holy? You might come up with all sorts of interesting ideas, but the Torah challenges us to rethink many of those ideas and to come up with some very practical and usable everyday ideas about being holy, including things like honoring our parents, or things like, if you're a farmer, do not harvest all of your fields, but leave a little corner at the end of your field for those who are poor. The simple everyday interactions that we don't think about, we instinctively just do, and we think of them as good, the Torah asks us to categorize as holy. And at the apex of this is the most famous verse in the entire Torah, probably, which is Leviticus 19, verse 18, the end of which says, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. You know, when a would-be convert came to Hillel and said, teach me Torah while I stand on one foot, or give me the essence of Torah, Hillel said, that which is hateful to you, do not do to others. And that's just the negative formulation of love your neighbor as yourself. The great Rabbi Akiva once said that love your neighbor as yourself is the central pillar, the klal gadol of the entire Torah. There are many central pillars of the Torah. Why did Rabbi Akiva focus on this one? We instinctively understand that, figuratively speaking, love your neighbor as yourself, or be loving to your neighbor, which is how the Ramban translates this verse, is certainly a cardinal principle. If you want to get along with other people, you have to be a good neighbor. You need to love yourself in order to love other people. We know what it really means instinctively to love your neighbor as yourself. But Rabbi Akiva may have had something else in mind as well. And let me show you what I mean with this little diagram. This represents the 5 books of the Torah, starting with Genesis and going over to Deuteronomy, from Bereshit all the way through Devarim. So we are in the 3rd book of the Torah, Leviticus, Vayikra. And we're in chapter 19, which is not the precise center, but it's practically the center of the book. And this verse, 19, is at the very center of that center chapter of the central book of the Torah. Quite literally, love your neighbor as yourself is the central pillar of the Torah. It supports all of the other mitzvot. Imagine the book of Vayikra, or this chapter, as a tree. And all the other mitzvot are the branches and the leaves of that tree. Everything grows out of the central pillar. Everything is nourished by that central pillar. Everything looks back to that central pillar. And maybe Rabbi Akiva meant not only figuratively, but literally. Love your neighbor as yourself is the cardinal principle of Torah, because it is the major support, the trunk of the tree that is Torah, that is Jewish living. Every Shabbat, every time we take out and put away the Torah, we say, Eitz Chaim Hi. It is a tree of life to those that hold on to it. Maybe that's what Rabbi Akiva was referring to. This is where we start. It is both the result of all of our actions. If we behave lovingly, we will be fulfilling love your neighbor as yourself. But it is also the starting point. It's the guide. It's the beginning. It motivates us to do what needs to be done. Rabbi Akiva was correct. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. This is the Torah's overarching, central idea. And as Hillel said, the rest is commentary. Let us all go and study. Shabbat Shalom, and I'll see you in Shul.